Buenas noches. Good evening. My name is Julie Thompson, and welcome to Tu Té Inglés. Now, this is a very special teacup. My mom bought it for herself. Yes, she does know that I'm using it, but she also knows I'll take good care of it. So this one is from Europe. Let's see, from where? I don't remember if this is from England or from Holland, the Netherlands, but it is very special and it's very pretty. And it has some wonderful tea in it, so excuse me. So, are you ready for Tu Té Inglés today? Tonight? Tonight, we will speak about the conditional tense. If it's real, if it's unreal, or past, it's conditional. But there is a condition with conditional that must be taken care of before we can actually call it conditional. So let's get started. The conditional tense, what is it and when do you use it? So what is the conditional tense? It's an action that happens because something else happens. For instance, if I say, I love to teach, that's not the conditional tense. Why? Because there isn't another action that makes me love to teach. But we'll talk about more conditions in a few minutes. And there are 4 conditional tenses. Sorry. Now, I'm not going to be testing you on what their names are. I will mention them. But to me, the most important thing is to know when to use them, not what their names are. But I will tell you what they are called. Okay? All right. So we have conditional tense, 4 of them. If it's real, unreal, or past. Now that sounds only like 3, but there's a 4th. There are 4 situations that involve the conditional tense, but it's not as bad as it sounds. That sounds like, how am I going to remember 4 of them? You will. Just take your time. So conditional tense, everything is iffy. And that's the clue. If you've got the word if in the sentence is in the conditional tense in English. In English. Get it? If you've got the word if in the sentence is in the conditional tense. So the key here is to see if the sentence has the word if. And if it does, it's in the conditional tense. In English. Remember, we're talking about English, not Spanish. All right? Okay, so if it's real, unreal, or past. So let's talk about those situations. You have a specific repeated condition. That's conditional. If you have a likely or possible outcome or result, that will be conditional. If you have an unlikely or impossible outcome or result, that will be conditional. Or if you have a past regret or a different outcome or result, that will be conditional. Did you notice that every sentence that I said had the word if in it? That tells me that the sentence is in the conditional tense. So we need to see some examples, don't we? So if there's a specific or repeated condition, let's look at the construction first. You have the word if, you have a present tense verb on the left side of the comma, and you have a present tense verb on the right side of the comma. Before the comma, present tense. After the comma, present tense. That tells me that there is a specific repeated condition that puts this sentence into the conditional tense. So, examples. If it rains, I wear boots. What's the condition? If it rains. It repeats? It repeats. Every time it rains, I wear boots. If it rains, I wear boots. If I wear boots, I wear my red boots. So that's repeated, repeated, repeated. If, that's the condition. The result is, I wear my red boots. Specifically. If it rains, I wear my red boots. Now if I have black boots, green boots, purple boots, fur boots, there might be other conditions. But if it rains, I wear my red boots. And I repeat that throughout my life. Red boots, because it's raining. But if I wear my red boots, then I wear my gloves too. So the condition is, if I wear my red boots. The result is, I wear my gloves too. So, specific condition, repeated, I guess you could call it a repeated outcome also. But the key I want you to see is the construction. If plus present, comma, present. If it rains, I wear boots. Both of those verbs are in the present tense. But what if there's another construction? If there's a likely or possible outcome, and that's called the real conditional. All right, so we have the word if plus the present tense before the comma, and then we have the word will, which is the future, plus the verb that's going to go along with the word will. Now, yes, we can reverse the order. We could put blank will, blank, comma, would not use a comma if the will is first. So, I will do something if something else takes place. Let's look at some examples. If it rains, my roof will leak. So if it rains, the condition, it's likely, it's possible, it's probable that my roof will leak. But notice that rains is in the present tense, but will leak is in the future. So now it's not that first conditional. This is that first conditional definition we talked about. This is the real conditional. All right. If my roof leaks, my floor will get wet. What's the condition? if my roof leaks? What is the likely or possible outcome? My floor will get wet. So this is the real conditional. What's the condition? If my floor gets wet, what will happen? What is the likely or possible outcome? My mother will be so mad. This is real conditional. But there's unreal conditional too. If there's an unlikely or impossible outcome, it's called the unreal conditional. So what is that construction? If, the word if, plus the verb in the past tense, one clause, one side of the comma, then you have something would happen. So now we're dealing with probably the most common way for us to recognize the conditional tense with the word would. That tells us that this is definitely a conditional sentence, conditional tense sentence. So, examples. If it rained, we would need a cruise ship. Now, it rains all the time, and we don't have cruise ships. But if I use this sentence, my listener will think, oh, is it going to rain that much that we would need a cruise ship? So that would be an unlikely or an impossible outcome. It tells us that there's a bit of exaggeration going on. So if it rained, past tense, we would, conditional, need a cruise ship. Another example. If we had a cruise ship, and had is the past, if we had a cruise ship, the condition, my mother would be a millionaire. Conditional. Conditional because it depends on the condition of if we had a cruise ship. Another example. If my mother were a millionaire. Oops, stop. Most people say, if my mother was, if I was. However, it's also good to say, if I were, if she were. There is still debate on whether or not we should say, if I were, instead of if I was. But I think you will find that most English speakers will say, if I was. Let me say that again. I shouldn't say most English speakers. I should say most U.S. English speakers would say, if I was. You will hear, if I were. I cannot speak for England. I cannot speak for Canada. I cannot speak for South Africa. And I cannot speak for Australia, New Zealand, Jamaica, Bahamas, U.S. Virgin Islands, Belize, and other countries whose native language is English. But I can pretty much say that most U.S. speakers would use the word was instead of were. Learn both. It's safer that way. So, if my mother was a millionaire, the condition, the family would be living on its own island. If my mother were, past tense, the family would be, conditional. Got it? One more to go. So if there's a past regret or a different outcome, so this is when you wish you had done something. There's a phrase that we say in English, woulda, coulda, shoulda. That's all conditional. If I would have done this, or I should have done this, past regret. I could have done this, past regret. The past regret means that now I know that I should have done something differently. Because if I had done it differently, the outcome or result would be better. Examples. Well, first the construction. You have, now this is a long one. If, with the word had and the past participle, then that's one side. The other side is would have, past participle. What are you talking about, Julie? What are you talking about? Calm down. Let's do the examples. If it had rained, and the word if tells us conditional, I would have worn my boots. But the word would also tells us conditional. So, why would I have worn my boots if it had rained? So, if it had rained is the condition. But evidently, I needed my boots anyway. But I didn't wear them. If it had rained, I would have worn them. But I didn't wear them because it didn't rain. And now I shoulda, I coulda worn my boots. I woulda worn my boots if it had rained. Past regret. Here's another one. If I had worn my boots, the floor wouldn't have gotten dirty. So, if I had worn my boots, the floor wouldn't have gotten dirty. But I didn't wear my boots, so the floor got dirty. You see how that works? If I had worn my boots, I wish I had worn my boots. I would have worn my boots. I should have worn my boots. I could have worn my boots, but I didn't. Past regret. And if the floor hadn't gotten dirty, my grandpa wouldn't have yelled at me. So let's go backwards on that. My grandpa wouldn't have yelled at me if the floor hadn't gotten dirty. But the floor got dirty, so my grandpa did yell at me. Now that last sentence isn't in the conditional because we're talking about two facts. The floor got dirty, so my grandpa yelled at me. But if, now we're in the conditional, if the floor hadn't gotten dirty, my grandpa wouldn't have yelled at me. By the way, let's not forget, yelled and gotten, those are the past participles. In English, they're irregular. Oh, well, excuse me. Gotten is irregular. Yelled is regular. That little ed there for the verb yell. Those are past participles. Yelled and gotten. A lot to think about, right? Well, we're just about finished here. So if it's real, unreal, or past. Specific condition, a likely outcome or result, an unlikely outcome or result, or a past regret and a different outcome. If it rains, I wear my boots. That's a specific, repeated condition. If it rains, I will wear my boots. That's a likely or possible outcome. But notice the difference between these two sentences is simply the first one uses I wear, present tense. The second one uses I will wear, which is the future tense. If it rained, past tense. If it rained, I would need boots as tall as the Eiffel Tower. Now that's an exaggeration, isn't it? So that's the unreal conditional. And we have the past at the beginning, rained. I would need, would, trigger word, think, would, think, conditional. And if it had rained, now we're very much into the conditional because that didn't happen. I would have gone to Paris to buy my boots. So I wish it would have rained because then I would have gone to Paris for boots. Got it? If you haven't got it, that's okay. Just watch the episode again. So this was the conditional tense. My tea is almost gone. So, see you next Monday at Tu Té Inglés. Monday at 7 p.m. Don't forget to subscribe and don't forget to tell your friends. See you next Monday.